Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. All right, first comment on the electric buses, and then I've got a comment on the committee recommendation. I do not feel that the electric technology is mature enough. I took the time to review the Altoona test results of both the BYD and the Proterra bus, which were tested last year, 2014. For those that may not know, Altoona, Pennsylvania, there's a bus testing facility where manufacturers send their vehicles for reliability and durability testing. It's a test that takes place over a several month period of time and encompasses about 14,000 miles. The BYD had 680 hours of downtime due to unscheduled maintenance in that 14,000 mile test. And the Proterra wasn't much better. It had 668 hours of downtime for unscheduled maintenance. When you compare that to the Gillig buses we're buying today, that bus was tested in 2013 and it had 8 hours of downtime for unscheduled maintenance. So I do not believe that these buses are ready for prime time. I think PSTA is far better off to let somebody else's taxpayers buy these buses and refine this technology and have PSTA buy in at a point in the future when maybe we don't need as many charging stations. Maybe we don't need any charging stations out on the road. Maybe we can all be terminal-based charging stations. I just think we're jumping the gun on this technology. I just don't think that it's ready for prime time. So that's my statement on the electric buses. Now, in reference to the Finance Committee's recommendation, I feel that both diesel and hybrid technologies have their redeeming qualities and both will serve PSTA well. I'm not disparaging either one over the other. However, I believe at this point in time it makes more sense to buy diesel buses for the following reasons. We have the following buses that have exceeded or are at their useful life. We have 7 2000 model year buses, or 2001s, 9 2002s, and 9 2003s. That's a total of 25 buses, or 12% of the PSTA fleet. These buses will use more fuel than new buses, cost more to maintain than new buses, be less reliable than new buses, have less safety features than the new buses, and all of these buses have absolutely no emission controls at all. They are extremely polluting buses compared to new clean diesel buses. In addition, in just over 1 year, in 2017, we have another 20 2005 model year buses that will reach their FTA-defined life expectation, and in just over 2 years, in 2018, we have another 46 2006 model year buses that will reach their FTA-defined life limit. That's a total of 91 buses, which is almost 50% of the PSTA fleet that is already exceeding or will be at their life expectation between now and the next 2+ years. So bus replacement needs to be our absolute #1 priority. Operationally speaking, we have a solid understanding of diesel life cycle costs. Current hybrid operational costs are promising. However, we are just now beginning to experience the replacement of the most expensive hybrid parts, such as batteries, which cost $40,000, the D-pin module, which costs $50,000. Even if not every hybrid bus in the fleet required these to be replaced, these costs will significantly narrow the gap to the extent that one even exists between the life cycle cost advantages of the hybrid and may actually shift it in favor of the diesel. From a route and fuel economy perspective, hybrids deliver the best performance on frequent stop-and-go routes, where diesel performs best on routes with higher speeds and longer drive times. Since PSTA is a high-mileage system, we have the opportunity to benefit from a mixed fleet of diesel and hybrid and get the most advantage out of each respective technology with proper scheduling. I believe the current 60+ fleet of hybrids adequately meets this need. From a public relations perspective, I have real concerns with how we justify to the public, especially those of limited means, and to the voters, buying more expensive hybrid buses that at the end of the day perform the same function as diesel buses, especially when we have recently cut service because we said we didn't have the money. We raised fares, including to the transportation disadvantaged, because we said we needed the money. And we got a solid thumping at the polls 1 year ago when we asked for more money. I simply do not believe we have the luxury of buying more expensive buses right now, and I feel we are sending the wrong message by doing so. In my opinion, the fiscally responsible decision is to buy as many new buses as possible, which means diesel buses, until our financial picture improves. Furthermore, I believe the socially responsible decision, the one that puts the rider first, the one that reduces the need for more service cuts in the future, which will ultimately hurt the ones that need it the most, It is the decision that also improves our reliability to provide the service is to buy the most new diesel buses as we can right now. Lastly, the real environmental win is retiring those 2001 to 2003 diesel buses that have absolutely no emission controls at all. Leaving those buses on the road from an environmental perspective will certainly negate the marginal improvements that fewer hybrid buses will provide. I understand and respect the desire of many to continue with the hybrid option or even an electric option when that makes sense, of which I am not opposed to when our financial and fleet situation allows. However, there are no guarantees of future bus funding from either a federal or a county perspective, and I feel a conservative approach is the most prudent one. I will stand behind whatever decision this board makes. However, as one who has experience in buying buses and bus-related equipment, if this was a decision I had to make in my business, it would be clear which way I would go. As such, I feel the board should accept the recommendation of the Finance Committee to purchase 9 diesel buses at a cost not to exceed $4.5 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Barclay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks to everyone who came today to the meeting. Thanks to all the comments from the commissioners. As I've said in the past, I think we have a social responsibility in addition to a financial responsibility. We're involved in a very big operation. We're involved with a very large amount of funds. And we have a social obligation to show our citizenry that we are doing the right thing. We have an image issue that we need to address. And that image has to be avant-garde, it has to be forward-facing, it has to be upbeat. And in order to do that, we have to do some things that maybe are a little bit risky, a little bit disconcerting, but we have to be out front. The old question, if not us, who? If not now, when? Comes to mind. I would ask the board that we consider a friendly amendment to Mayor Kajowski's proposal and ask that we have a friendly amendment that two of the buses that we purchased would be electric.
Second.
The way you phrased that was you wanted a friendly amendment, so I have to ask the maker of the
The
motion.
seconder has to agree as well. Who was the seconder?
I was.
I come today to echo Brian. I think we should buy the buses, the electric buses, because they're environmentally more safe than the diesel buses. I've been to cities with diesel buses and you can't breathe. So my advice is to buy the buses and go with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next public comment is from Mr. John Rask, who is also speaking for his own grandson. Mr. Rask.
Good morning again. Tom Rask, Unincorporated Seminole. Just give me a second to organize here. Start with what's important. I'm kind of sleep deprived because I've been working real hard at Hillsborough, also known as Greenlight Hillsborough. So when you're sleep deprived, you're a bit cold. Could we raise the temperature in here a little bit? It's a joke. Comment relief. Anyway, speaking of comic, indulge me for a second. I missed item 6A because I was outside talking to Ms. Borchers about 6B. And my comment about 6A is that the font the PSTA uses is amateurish and unprofessional on its meeting schedule. Reading from a comment by someone who writes books on font type says using Comic Sans. That's the font that's being used here. You send a visual message.
Mr. Rask, could you restrict your comments to the vice
I will just want to
purchase?
pass this to staff. So please look at getting a different font. I'll leave that here. Now, as far as the electric bus purchase, there are so many things to cover that 6 minutes is not enough. 60 minutes would not be enough. It starts with the assumption that it's environmentally friendly. It's not. It has zero tailpipe emissions, that's correct, but if you can look at the U.S. Energy Information Agency website in Florida, 92% of energy from electric generation is either from hydrocarbon sources, so that's CO2 emissions, or nuclear. And I hear a lot of people talking about this, they're very concerned about the environment. For those of you who dye your hair, next time you do, take that bottle and stick it in the nearest koi pond and see how well the fish do. There's this fake concern about environmental impact. Nobody here came by bus, by bicycle, or any alternative means of transportation. Someone did. That's a shame. I meant on the board. I want to thank Brad for all his hard work on this, and I agree that this matter is urgent. He said so. I'm not opposed to electric buses. I believe I've said so before. But there's a lot of misinformation on price, on what the staff recommendation is, which I believe is still incorrect right now. As we look on the website, it still says purchase hybrids or purchase electric. This is something I sent an email to you about. I'm not even clear. Let me put it this way. If you were preparing for this meeting today as a citizen, and you wanted to think through the material and come here with reasonable comments, you're totally confused at this point, because what's online is not what was presented here. And I am aware, Mr. Zimmet, that there's no requirement to post the agenda, but it would help if we could see it in advance. So there's misinformation on price, on what the staff recommendation is, and one piece of information that's gone out to you from the Sierra Club, and I quote, PSTA now estimates Proterra's buses would be a good fit for 15 of its 40 routes. That's not correct. I spoke to Ms. Borchers. They might be a fit. It's a difference between would be a fit and might be a fit. The pricing information they give in the same email is also incorrect. I already covered that their emission calculations are misleading, to say the least. Then also, this is not the best financial decision. It's asserted that it is, but you can just look at the cost of diesel buses, the lifetime cost. Your sustainability policy looks to me, it's just a bunch of Venn diagrams. There are no hard numbers. It's fluff. This could be used by anybody to advocate anything, for anything. And I said that in an email to you, you've got to have hard numbers. I believe you can get a diesel bus with this BAE transmission system. If that's incorrect, then let me know. I'm not clear from the material. There's nothing low-no about these buses. There are emissions. I want to stress that again. They come from hydrocarbons, which then turn into CO2 and CO, and nuclear. I covered that already. I understand, Mr. Miller, if I heard correctly, he was saying that PSTA wants to move to electric buses. I'm not aware of any policy decision by PSTA to move to electric. There are significant risks with this kind of technology, having it out there and it breaking down. And you're not the ones who would have to pick up stranded drivers. We have now a need for buses. I think you should look at buying, if not 7, then 9 conventional diesel buses that have a really good study of what the options are moving forward and make this decision next year. I view it as if the board were to now vote for hybrid electric buses, or diesel hybrids as I call them. You need to remember they're still diesel. They're hybrids, but they're still diesel buses. You would be wasting $1.3 million and you'd be going into reserves to please an enviro-radical, ideological minority. They're ideologically driven by this. And I covered that in the email. So I urge you to purchase the diesel buses, and let's talk about electric buses next year. I am not opposed to electric buses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rask. The next person to speak is Phil Compton. Mr. Compton is speaking also for Mr. Hancock. Are you here? Mr. Lawrence, are you here? Mr. Lawrence? George Lawrence? Yeah, okay. And Tara LaSalle. Thank you. You have 10 minutes, Mr. Compton.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I heard somebody.
Yeah, myself, I put in donation, so my name's Jeanette Young.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're maxed out here.
Thank you.
Good morning. Phil Compton, Senior Organizing Representative for Sierra Club, our Beyond Oil and Florida Healthy Air campaign. I want to thank, first of all, the board members who have listened to the information that we provided to you, have read the emails. I know you've had a lot to read lately, and have, in many cases, sat down with me to talk about these issues in the last few weeks. I also want to thank the 32 citizens who have come today. I don't know if you could read what the green sticker says that everyone is wearing. Zero emission electric buses now. We can't afford not to. That's our position on this situation at this time. And I want to thank the staff for their commitment to putting PSTA on a path forward to electric bus adoption. Really appreciate your openness to that, because it is the path that you need to go forward, and to looking at what you've been learning. How far have we come just in the last couple of months? We had a plan here to go to diesels for the next several years. And looking at the new facts that have emerged, we now agree that that's not necessary to do. We support the adoption of electric vehicle technology wherever it proves practical and affordable. And after working with several vendors who have demonstrated their buses here for you, that's Proterra, May 21st, thanks to Mr. Barkley and Mr. Johnson for attending that, the BYD demonstration on the 14th, and also the complete coach demonstration about the same time. And along with our input from our national team, it is now clear that electric buses are indeed both affordable and practical for you to acquire today. And we urge you to do so. Can you afford to buy electric buses now? Really, you can't afford not to. And here's why. Let's talk about the cost. And these are the figures that I've been provided by bus manufacturers themselves. Bus is going to cost you $499,000. That's with a battery lease. There are a lot of reasons why you might want to consider the battery lease. One reason is that will reduce your capital expenditure. Okay? Your PSTA adjustment, $90,000 for the bells and whistles, everything that you put on a bus, and then the charging station, $40,000 plus $10,000 installed. That comes up to a cost of $639,000 versus what a diesel might be with the bells and whistles, $590,000, or a diesel hybrid, perhaps $785,000. We can talk about these numbers. Obviously, we need to talk to manufacturers to get their cost estimates for you, but this is what it looks like to us at this point in time. Let's talk about that charging station. History. No transit agency in America is running with the in-depot charging station, but several have them on order. By the time you would have yours, which would be 1 year in service, there would be several others doing this. This would work for you today for the suggestion that some board members have made. Buying a couple at this time. Okay, that would be a very good thing to consider doing. The battery lease, how much would that cost? Maybe $20,000 on the operating expenses. The fuel expense, $10,000 per year. $10,000 per year versus $32,642 for diesel, $25,200 for diesel hybrid. Again, as Mr. Ress said, hybrids are diesels. Maintenance, $25,000, $25,813 estimated for a electric bus from Proterra versus $37,900 for diesel or $52,267 for a diesel hybrid. Those are from industry averages, by the way. You could have a total cost analysis with your data with Proterra as you start working with them now to fine-tune those figures based on your own experience with your own diesel hybrids that you've been operating. But those are across-the-board industry averages. So that brings the cost of an operating expense for an electric bus over a 12-year lifespan. And I know they're going to run longer than that, till 2030, to $55,813 versus $70,542 for diesel and $77,467 for diesel hybrid. That's with the battery lease being added to your operating expense. That's why any of these bus manufacturers will tell you that their bus will cost less for you to own and operate. So the question is it practical? And according to the initial assessments that have been done, it would be. Let's talk about emissions. I've got several documents to share with you all. I'm going to ask Commissioner Finger to please pass these down to the class, if you would, please. There will be a test. I want to talk about greenhouse gas emissions. Yes, of course, we're burning coal and we're burning natural gas today. The difference here is you're making a decision not to buy a car for 5 years and turn it in. You're making a decision to buy a bus that's going to be running on our streets till 2030 easily, right? Long-term commitment to our community. Whatever the diesel hybrid is going to do, its performance is going to stay the same over time, right? But the net pollution, if you will, from an electric bus is lower today than it would be from a diesel or diesel hybrid. And that will continue to decline over years as our friends at Duke and all the other utilities move forward to installing more renewable energy, which we think will be a substantial part of our energy portfolio, certainly by 2030. It had better be, right? Let's talk a little bit more about the overhead charging. Overhead charging, which is expensive, that does work, according to Proterra, for up to 9 different buses. That is $500,000 to buy it and install it. So no, would that be a practical thing for 1 or 2 buses? Probably not. Those are used on routes and locations like transfer stations, and those provide quick charging 5 to 10 minutes while passengers are disembarking and entering the bus. So you would see that probably in 4 buses for each hour and 15-minute increments, those 15-minute windows, something of that nature. Again, work that out with whomever you choose to work with. But the in-depot charging for extended bus ranges, extended range buses, $50,000, that does take 6 hours to charge. So you could either have a bus that charges and goes out for its route, or comes back in the middle of the day, if that is practical for your routes. So that could be located here, or perhaps in a location along the route itself, such as the Grand Central Station at 31st and Central. They do require personnel to manually plug the bus in, which is like the same thing you do when you're charging an EV. You plug it in, get out, plug it in. The fuel cost. Why is the fuel cost so low? Electricity is cheap. It's regulated by the Public Service Commission. It's not going to go up the way diesel is with the market, the global market. Proterra projects theirs fuel cost, their mileage to be 22 miles per gallon. And that's why you get the cost down to $10,000. When you're talking about electric buses, is the Proterra bus the only option that you have? No. Obviously it's not. BYD has been mentioned here today. This is the bus that was here September 14th, after we had a St. Pete Drive Electric Day at Spa Beach Park. They did make an offer at that time to leave the bus here for a week for you to run it on your routes and see, kick the tires and see how it works for you. You didn't take them up on that offer. That bus was just doing the same thing down in Miami-Dade, and I did email you the link if you had a chance to look at that. Mayor Carlos Jimenez talking about this. They ran the bus for a week, and now they're inviting, I understand, Proterra to come down. They're doing their due diligence on that. One of the things that you got here is a new fact sheet that we've compiled, which has a lot of comparative information about zero-emission buses. What about these new BAE diesel hybrid buses? Aren't they like a Chevy Bolt? Well, actually, they're more like a Toyota Prius. And I hope you understand the difference between the two. The diesel engine powers a generator, which starts the engine and gives power to the electric motor and energy storage system. The electric motor turns the wheels of the bus. When the bus slows down, the hybrid diesel electric motor functions as a generator, recapturing energy for later use. Lithium-ion batteries provide power for acceleration and store the power generated when the brakes are applied. And that's from the website hybriddrive.com. In other words, it's like a Prius. It's better than the ones you've had. Is it the best thing that you can do now? Is it the cleanest thing you can do now? And is it the least expensive thing you can do now? No, it's not. Our ask all along has been that you perform your due diligence on the opportunity that this new technology now does present to achieve quiet, safe, emission-free service at a lower cost. We hope that you will now begin the process of adding these buses to your fleet to use where they would work today. And according to the initial assessment done, there would be 3 routes where the depot charging would work for you. Again, I understand you're sitting down with Proterra tomorrow. That's great. We strongly support your low-no grant application, and we advocate that other community organizations and businesses do as well, and we're going to work with you on that in the next few weeks to get more support for that. But understand that with the prices for zero-emission buses now in between that of diesel and diesel hybrid, not to mention a lower lifetime total cost of ownership, there is no reason to wait and hope against stiff competition that you win this grant to begin acquiring these buses right now. For example, you can choose to acquire 2 today, as has been suggested, put them into service for 1 year, and add to them as you were able in subsequent years with grant funding and normal capital funds. By doing this now, you will benefit from the experience of learning how these buses can easily be integrated into your service and maintenance and preparing you for a larger commitment to this new technology. Please take the step today and step into the future of transportation because we think you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next public speaker is James Anderson. Good morning, Mr. Anderson.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing us to speak. I wanted to say that I'm a clean air advocate. I'm asking you to support and also vote for the zero-emission electric buses. One of the reasons I am is I have lung disease. I have asthma and RAS. What we did in the late 1980s and the early 1990s was we worked to remove diesel exhaust from the firehouses in Arlington County, Virginia, where I worked. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous standing up here. What I don't hear today is the human cost. The human cost to my lungs of that diesel exhaust in those firehouses. I don't think the diesel buses today do as much damage as those fire trucks did to us years ago. But that diesel still affects the human beings in Pinellas County. I'm asking, please care about your family, your friends, and the people that live in Pinellas County. I'm asking you to reduce the diesel exhaust completely. Please vote for the electric buses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next speaker is Brooke Anderson. Ms. Anderson. Good morning.
Good morning. I too am a little nervous. It's been a long time since I stood up and talked to a distinguished board. Pinellas County is one of the, or is, as far as I know, one of the popular, or the most populated counties in Florida. I too agree with what my husband just said. We have a lot of people that live here. A lot of people have lung disease. We have a lot of older people. I do think that you need to not look at the diesel hybrid, but go with electric. That's all I have to say. Please vote for electric.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anderson. George Root. Am I pronouncing it right?
That is correct.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank the board for all the effort and staff at PSTA that they've made in addressing many issues. Like many others, I would hope that you as board members have the opportunity to receive information prior to having to make immediate decisions, because it is difficult to make the decisions unless you have true information. I'm not pointing any fingers here, I'm just really saying that this is a process we understand, and we hope that we will see more information made available. So what I'm going to address today is a little bit of a question that Darden Rice put forward about where we're going in the near future. In terms of energy production and the systems available to it, when we look at our hydrocarbon production of energy from coal, gas, and compressed natural gas, those are pretty much fixed systems for which we know the parameters. We are continuing to move into the more flexible area of production of electricity from solar and other sources, and battery technology has improved in both incrementally and along with those mentioned as breakthrough technologies by the good maintenance staff here, and those are near future changes. The obvious no emissions for the electric buses is something that I don't believe there's any controversy about. But addressing what does it mean in terms of the larger system cost of producing the electricity, it is in the alternative sources of solar and other technology where flexibility does exist and where there has been both private and public investment in those newer technologies. So I want to strongly urge you that you take that into consideration in your decision, that using electric alternatives will be an increasingly more effective and efficient and environmentally low cost in terms of effect on the environment as we move forward into both the immediate future and the long term. I also want to ask that the board take into consideration that with the battery technology, that there is the option of putting in batteries over time that will be efficiently improved through these changes in technology. Therefore, you have more flexibility there as well over diesel systems. So those are the basic context things I want to address. And I want to thank you very much and say that we are supporting the no emission approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Root. The next speaker is Bill Bocolo. Am I pronouncing that right?
Mr. Bacolo has the lead.
The next speaker then is Frank Giacalone. Mr. Giacalone, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here to address all of you today. My name is Frank Giacalone. I'm the Florida Staff Director of the Sierra Club. I live in St. Petersburg in Lakewood Estates. I support electrification of our transportation system for a couple of reasons. Number one is cleaner. And it's not just cleaner for climate reasons, but it's cleaner because the air is cleaner. That when you're on the city streets, you're experiencing a much cleaner experience. When you're driving, it's cleaner. But I am becoming increasingly worried about climate impacts. Climate impacts being an overriding concern for the area that we live in. Scientists are now saying that there's a minimum of 3 feet of sea level rise that we can expect between now and 2100. However, if we do not act strongly, that will go to 10 feet of sea level rise or more. We already are seeing impacts in Miami Beach. We're seeing with tidal events where streets are being flooded. We are seeing now that city leaders in Miami are saying we need to take action. We're seeing this as a bipartisan effort. They are now realizing that their city is in trouble. We need to take action. In this summer, I was watching Bay News 9 during the middle of that terrible rainstorm. You know, with mixed feelings. First, feeling lucky that our streets weren't flooded in South Pinellas, but then looking at what happened in Tampa and watching Mayor Buckhorn on TV, wading in knee-deep water and saying that he's not afraid to say this has to do with climate change. And he said that publicly during the middle of the storm. It's happening, it's starting to happen right now. So my question to you is, do we wait until Beach Drive starts to flood with tidal surges? Do we wait until sea level rise starts to eat up the beaches in front of our beautiful hotels in St. Pete Beach, Clearwater Beach, before we turn on the alarm and actually take action? The city of Miami is taking action right now. They're saying we're testing these buses right now. We just met with the mayor said I just met with my fellow mayors from China. And you know something? If these buses work, we're going to electrify all of our buses in Miami. Right? They're making that commitment. What I'm saying is that you all need to take that commitment as well because we are at ground zero too. This is the most endangered area of the country when it comes to storm surge. Recent reports indicated. You know, we're going to be in trouble soon, and we need to show we are taking those measures to combat climate change as leaders if we expect the rest of the country to follow and to help us. You know, in San Francisco, you can climb back over to the mountains and the hills. We can't do that in Florida. The solutions. Power, number one, power generation. I attended a seminar held by Duke Energy yesterday. Now, we're not necessarily the best friends with Duke Energy, but I was extremely pleased with their message. It was a renewable energy seminar that they held for large businesses in Florida, their customer base. And it was all about moving forward towards solar energy and the need to do that, how they were going to do that, with rooftops, helping businesses with rooftop solar, helping them with community gardens. They acknowledged that the prices of natural gas were volatile, that we needed energy efficiency. I mean, I was saying this is the Sierra Club's message. And it was not designed for the Sierra Club. It was designed for large businesses in Pinellas who already are putting solar panels on their rooftops, like Lockheed just did. Right? So the answer to the question, Ms. Rice, is that our energy grid each year is going to get cleaner and cleaner. And electrification is the way to go to have the cleanest possible energy in the future. Even Duke is moving fast in that direction right now. They are changing their business model. The bus options that you have before you, we would say, number one, that diesel and hybrid diesel buses are still diesel buses. They're still dirty. And please recall, just this past month, Volkswagen was really caught with their pants down about diesel. Diesel is not as clean as people report we're selling those vehicles. I urge you to be very careful about moving forward with diesel. The Chevy Volt that I drive has a plug. It plugs in. I got 40 miles to my charge this morning. I drove 10 miles here. I still have 30 miles left. All of that driving is gasoline free. That's different than the buses you were talking about. Those buses charge up first with a diesel engine. And my recommendation to you is simply, why don't you purchase 5 buses that are diesel or diesel hybrid, and 2 buses set aside as electric buses. Get 3 competitive bids from electric bus companies with the numbers and the facts on how much they're really going to cost. And then come back and analyze with the board. Your staff has not done you justice. They have not given you the numbers. And I urge you.
Neeson, please.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bruce Neeson.
My name is Bruce Nissen. I live in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm going to be very, very, very brief, but it seems to me that you're giving differing facts and figures all the time. It seems to me that even just from what facts you thought you were being given a month ago, things have changed drastically. And it just appears to me that as more and more facts come out, more and more the facts that lead you in the direction of buying electric buses rather than any form of diesel whatsoever. And I guess the main thing I just want to say, because I don't want to get into the facts and figures, although I think that the facts do need to be vetted very, very thoroughly. You're getting different ones all the time, and so I think you need to be clear on that one. And I thought Phil Conklin made a number of factual things that really need to be looked at and need to be clear about. But if you walk into this, is what I think has happened in this case. If you walk into this with the attitude, well, electric can't work, it won't work, so let's just figure it out and make the worst case scenario in terms of the ways it can't work. And it's going to take 3 years. Well, it wouldn't take 3 years if you want to. It's very, very similar to when much higher miles per gallon was necessary. The thing you heard constantly from the industry is impossible, it's impossible. Every time that was legislated, it was meant, it was more than that. If you have the attitude that this isn't work, it can't work, it's not the way to go, let's stick with the old tried and true and pollute our air. This is not the way that's going to work. If you have a can-do attitude with that, we could do electric, we could make it work. The refusal to even countenance kind of the whole idea of saving some status to keep the cost down, so those things to me are indicators that the approach that's being taken here by the staff is this isn't really going to work. We want to do it. We're only going to make it work. You can get this thing from the federal government. I'd say go for the thing from the federal government, but go for it in the meantime anyway. You know what?
Thank you very much, Mr. Nissen. Rose Padilla? Malagos? Good morning.
Good morning. My first name is pronounced Milagros. My last name Padilla. The double F. I always pronounce like an A. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you today. I am supporting the use of electric buses. You have developed a sustainability policy that takes into account financial, environmental, and social factors. The negative effect of diesel emissions have been well documented at the cost of the health to our citizens. Therefore, the cost of transportation when being considered must include all costs, not the cost of your capital expenses. And those costs across to individuals and society must include healthcare costs, workers' loss due to disease, and the quality of life. I am an asthmatic and also have serious heart problems. So have a large number of children and adults in your county. The detrimental effect of diesel emissions contribute greatly to that. I'm also a health and public health practitioner, and in the past developed and managed a program dealing with urban asthma. In that program, just cutting down the diesel buses idling around schools decreased the asthma of children in those schools by more than half in just a few months. So you can just speculate how large the decrease to the citizenship in this county would be if we cut down on diesel emissions. And because you also talk about social and financial, I am saying to you that this issue of decreasing diesel emissions is an issue of social and financial equity to communities of colors. We, unfortunately, are the ones who bear the greatest burden of asthma and other pulmonary diseases. And therefore, that is a greater cost to us in the society. So I'm saying to you, please help me and others stay alive and lead a good life. Go electric. Save the cost up front. Apply the precautionary principle that says if you're going to harm or there is potential harm, you should abstain for such.
Thank you very much. Dr. Dale Potter. Dr. Potter, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present. I strongly urge you to purchase electric buses, not diesel. It is time to base policy and decisions on science. Two recent scientific papers on sea level rise and the recent conference at the St. Peter's College on sea level rise predict dire consequences for Pinellas County due to climate change. They point to a future that is bleak to a major economic engine of this county, tourism. You will come to Pinellas County and to vacation to experience flooding and eroding beaches. They also portray a depressing future for the ability to attract new investment. A future of nearly certain sea level rise will place expensive homes and thriving businesses below the high tide level. One study in particular is very disturbing. It projects a future of sea level rise that is already locked in. No matter what we do, it's not going to change, according to this study. That 25% of the population of St. Petersburg will be relocated because of sea level rise. However, I'd like to believe that James Henson is right when he says he's a climatologist, when he says that he believes that we can prevent the worst of climate change. To do this, we will need to cut carbon dioxide emissions rapidly and drastically. You have a unique opportunity to purchase electric buses and reduce carbon in the atmosphere, reduce the future emissions by thousands of tons of carbon dioxide. To continue to burn fossil fuels at the current rate is no longer an option. There are scores of scientific studies and reports on ocean acidification, species extinction, food and water shortages, public health, extreme heat waves, and storms that predicts a world outside of the human experience. So society has already experienced the economic cost of an increase of only 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit. The budgetary concerns faced by PSTA today will be insignificant compared to those required in the not-too-distant future to deal with climate change. It is well past the time when the science of climate change can be ignored and the can kicked down the road. The laws of physics that govern nature are not negotiable.
Thank you, Mr. Potter. Dr. Potter. Lawrence Potter. Good morning, Mr. Potter.
Good morning. I appreciate all the work you folks are doing, and I know it's a lot of facts and figures and studies, but I'm here as a homeowner and a taxpayer. I live in unincorporated Pinellas, so I've only got you folks and my county commissioners to complain to, if you will, or address concerns. And I should have brought some dirt off my windowsill, because this time of year when I have the windows open, I'm a few blocks from Park and Starkey. It appears to be a nice, quiet neighborhood, and it's not noise from traffic, but it's pollution. It's disgusting when I have my windows open, how often I have to clean my windowsills or just leave piles of soot there is what it looks like. And I'm concerned about my property values if this continues. You know, we can't shut down our airports, we need tourism. Where are we going to make an improvement in our environment? And here's an opportunity. I've heard, as a taxpayer, I'm concerned about cost. If we're going to try these electric buses, let's get as many as we can afford now, so that next year when we're talking about building these quick transfer charge stations, that we'll have some buses to allocate the cost instead of being here next year, same problem. Well, we only have 2 buses, or we have no buses, now we have to build all these things. No, finance costs now are as low as they're ever going to be, so if we don't do it now, when are we going to do it? Because next year will have its own excuses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Potter. Mr. Michael Miller. Good morning, Mr. Miller.
Good morning. My name is Michael Miller. I'm from Clearwater. Give me a 10-second warning when I'm running down, please,
okay,
Mr. Chairperson. Board, thank you very much. I'd like to applaud all the work that the board has done in the past. Pinellas County has done a great job in moving in the right direction. I think the BEA transmission system is a step in the right direction, but it's not the best step in the right direction. I make my living designing and installing aquariums. I had the pleasure of the responsibility of creating little systems, and my main responsibility was for the health of the inhabitants. You enjoy that very same responsibility. You have to look out into the future as to where we're going, and the citizens of our county, our state, our country, and our world. So, at any rate, what I discovered was small changes in management would make very large changes in the little ecosystems that I would create. And it was very obvious. You could show it to the kids, and the kids in the schools would understand it, they would get it immediately. So, we're taking a look at how we are going to manage the nuts and bolts of moving people from one location to another. And in the process of that management, we're looking at costs, we're looking at routes and conveniences and inconveniences. But the days of the nuts and bolts of looking at the numbers and the routes and the mechanics of moving people are not over. They're now very much complicated by the fact that we have this additional problem. And this additional problem is our changing environment, our changing atmosphere. Think back to that iconic photograph taken from the moon back towards our blue marble. And the emotions always well up in me when I think of that photograph and the meaning of that. You take that fine little whisper of gas that surrounds our planet. And what we found out that, yeah, we do have an impact on that whisper of gas. Things are changing. I heard it said earlier that the most important thing you can do as a citizen is ride the bus. Well, yes, but you also have to put in compact fluorescents. And you also have to change your habits of how you do things. I am going to, thank you for the 10 seconds. I'm going to ask us all to kind of show a fan of support for our future. We can do this together. We're going to have to get used to warmer rooms and colder rooms. So anybody who feels that this is an important thing, please give us a fan. Anybody? Yeah, there we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person is Jasmine Furkan. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Jasmine, and I live in Clearwater. And I want to say that I'm for electric buses, 100%. The diesel bus, once you buy a diesel bus, it's always a diesel bus. There is no flexibility to upgrade this. If you buy an electric bus, the battery and technology may be changing down the road, and it's easy to update and upgrade. As far as Darden's question about points of extraction, we are using coal mostly for electricity, but we're pushing toward solar and wind energy, so that's improving. Once you commit for 15-year diesel bus, you're stuck with 15-year purchase of diesel. And diesel is not clean. There is no such thing as clean diesel, because even compressed natural gas is clean at the point of emission, but not at the point of extraction. We have to frack for natural gas. So everybody else covered all the other issues that I was going to cover, and I want to mention that children as young as 2 are developing asthma and their own inhalers. So as we pressing group to improve their technology, that's going to help us down the road. And I have a suggestion. We have a $7 million surplus from our bed tax that we collected in the city. Why don't we buy charging stations and lease them back to PSTA? So give them a head start on these electric buses. Bed tax, we have $7 million in reserve. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Next person to speak is Tom Crumrich. Am I anywhere close?
That's good. Yeah.
Good morning.
That's good if anybody does. Thank you very much. And I want to thank you for your decision 2 months ago to delay your decision on making
this very important decision because, as you found out, much of you, to your shock 2 months ago, you haven't, most of you have not been provided with almost any information. A lot of you didn't even know about Forterra visit back in March, nothing. So it's really important, and you've learned in the last 2 months there's that kind of information out there. I want to counter 3 different points that Mr. Miller made of why, you know, why you'd be discouraged to go electric buses. The first point wasn't explicitly made, but implied, and that is that the only way that you could buy electric buses is if you got this federal grant to cover the cost differential. Well, I was here for all 3 of those demonstrations when the companies came, and at least one of the companies, which was Complete Coach, that's the one he referred to, that would go in and completely refurbish a diesel and make it like brand new and then put electric drive in it. That's a company that for 25 years has been repairing buses and trains. So they were in the perfect position to do this because they buy tons of them in lots and then they cannibalize them. So they were the perfect people to do this. Their refurbished, like brand new electric bus is $579,000, which is less, I think, than even the conventional diesel, which is buy now. So you don't have to get a grant to buy that. Their range was 150 miles, and it's my understanding, and that's why this simple question of what is your average route distance, what is your longest route, what is your shortest route, those are really, that's not rocket science, that's a real simple question that I was stunned to find out that he didn't know. So, you know, 150 miles, that means you can put a charger here, and you've already got the 440 volt electricity to do that with. So the expense would be minimal to just have one charger here. And if they had to, they could come in the middle of the day and another bus could go out, or they could go the whole day. The other point was about the time frame involved in how soon you can get the bus. All 3 of the companies said you'll get our bus in less than a year's time, including the charging station, either the one here or on route. So the third issue was the need for in-route charging, which I think I've already said. You know, you really don't necessarily have to have in-route charging. You've already got 440 here, and you can, you know, it's a lot cheaper to have a charging station here that they could come to either during the day and have another bus replace them, or come at night and then charge overnight. So I really want to encourage you to buy electric buses. Thank you.
Jeanette Young.
Sir, no, I did not want to speak. I wanted to give that to full comment.
Thank you. Mr. Compton got the maximum amount of 10 minutes. So thank you very much for coming. I see your sticker, so we know where you would come from. The last card that I have is a L. Vanderberg. Good morning, sir. It's still morning.
I'll hurry up. I'm quoting a presidential candidate that what he said the other day. I have many other cool things to do in my life. But people talk about the battery. Essentially, you're talking about the propulsion system of the buses. And with diesel, that works fine, but it gives a lot of stuff, a lot of pollution. So let's see if there is a better alternative. So you look at batteries. What I have not heard is that what quality batteries are you really looking at? Okay. The driving a city bus is short, many stops and starts and whatever is very heavy on any propulsion system. Your average bus, as I have understood, goes for about 200,000 miles. Making a rough comparison with a long-distance trucking van is also a diesel engine, gets about 500,000 miles. That gives an indication how heavy it is on the propulsion system. So let's look at the batteries that people are talking about, and correctly said, there is still many developments going on, and in principle, I'm all for it. But what is, at this point, the best choice? Okay? Have we any idea from the people that want to sell these buses with batteries? Have they made test runs, actual test runs, use them in city buses? Okay, and test results, are they available to us? Because there are many things that can be overlooked in those batteries. For example, can those batteries be used till they are almost fully depleted? For many of those batteries, they say you cannot deplete them till they are less than 20% of capacity, because that's very bad for their lifetime. All right? And I'm not saying this all by myself. I mean, that is from the Journal of the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers and Materials Research Society. They go in detail about that. Another thing is the temperature of the batteries. Higher temperature very often makes shorter the lifetime of these batteries. So that may be checked out, because fluorides can be hard over the year. Is there actually a temperature limit above which those batteries should not be used? Some of these batteries, you go above that limit, within a day, they are completely shot.
Thank you very much.
The thing is, are those batteries, when they make these calculations, do they include the power needed for the air conditioning in the bus?
Thank you for your comments. Your time is up.
Oh, my time is up. Anyhow, I just want to let you know there are some things I think should be considered when you talk about battery power.
Thank you, sir.